Hey everyone, really excited to be here. When Sunir asked me for a topic, I said, I don't know man, why don't you tell me? And he said, well these people are very sophisticated, they know their stuff. So I was pretty excited about it. So I'm going to kind of dig into the weeds a little bit. I've been at Bitly for almost 7 months now. So this is like my first 7 months in, like let me spit everything out that I've learned and that we've done, and hopefully there's some lessons and interesting stuff in here. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. As Sunir mentioned, my name's Andrew. I've been building and growing startups, mainly web software, mainly SaaS businesses since I was 18. Some of those companies include Moz. How many people know Moz.com? Hopefully, awesome, cool. What is that, Seesmic? How many people know Seesmic? Come on, a couple hand raised. No? There you go, thanks. No, so Seesmic was a social media management platform back when that whole thing was happening with Twitter building out their platform. And we were one of the ones, unfortunately, that got scared by the platform shift that was happening and decided to pivot, and we ended up selling to Hootsuite, but it wasn't a great exit. So I spent some time there. Actually, there was a TechCrunch article where there was a big tsunami coming, and then there was our little raccoon guy at the bottom of the tsunami, which was the tsunami was Twitter. So it was an interesting time, but that was a lot of fun. I started a company called Stride, which was a little sales tracking, sales management application. And then most recently, I was at a company called Betaworks, which is a studio based here in New York City that builds and grows technology companies. So some of the companies that are in their studio right now are Dig, so they're trying to revitalize Dig. Giphy's in there. I'm sure you all use Giphy. I know I lean on it pretty heavily. There's a product called Dots in there, which is a little iPhone game. So it's this really cool place where there were a lot of different kinds of companies being built in this studio kind of environment. So hopped around, spent a while as an EIR. No? Okay. Cool. So that's what I was doing most recently. And during my time at Betaworks, one of the companies that came out of Betaworks was Bitly. And in talking with the CEO over there, they had a move at the VP of marketing role. And John, the CEO of Betaworks, came to me and he said, hey, like, this is right up your alley, right? It's software. They're kind of at that interesting phase where they're figuring out their revenue model and now they need to scale. So I was all about it. So I hopped over to Bitly about 7 months ago. So let's talk about that. So how many people know Bitly? Okay, great, awesome. And I'll get into more of that a little bit later in terms of awareness, but not really understanding what the product is. Part of the challenge. So here's like kind of where we're at. So we launched in 2008. We have raised through a Series C, so a total of $31 million invested into Bitly. In 2012, we announced something called Bitly Brand Tools, which was our enterprise premium offering. And then just this year, actually, not too long ago, we passed $1 million in monthly recurring revenue and profitability, actually. So that was a huge mark for us. In terms of scale, so what we call them encodes, but that's basically links created on Bitly. So we have about 400 million links created on Bitly every month. Of those, there's about 10 billion clicks on those links every single month. So pretty huge scale. And then of that, 2 billion of those are unique interactions, unique clicks on our platform. So we have this really interesting, really large, robust data set that we have to work with. Here's some of the brands that use Bitly, and this is our premium product, Bitly Brand Tools. Now that that's kind of over, let's kind of dig into the meat of this thing. So these are some of the terms that at least most people are familiar with here, but these are kind of our SaaS glossary at Bitly. So a lead is a form fill on a Bitly property. MQL is a marketing qualified lead. SAL, sales activated lead. SQO, sales qualified opportunities. You guys can be dressed. I'm sure this is pretty similar, I guess, to most of your guys' businesses. Is that right? Like a nod? Yeah? Okay, cool. So this is like kind of how I went through the process of building the marketing org at Bitly. And it's kind of interesting because I've been like head in the weeds for 7 months, and like this is actually my first opportunity where I'm kind of like stepping back and figuring out what the hell I did. So it's actually it was a really good process for me. But the first thing that I did when I came into Bitly was we needed to visualize the funnel. Surprisingly enough, we actually didn't have a clear picture of what our funnel looked like when I entered into the business. So we had these spreadsheets, we had all this stuff all over the place with all these metrics in varying places, but not one place where we kind of kept track of everything and really analyzed everything. So the first thing I did was basically take all the data that existed and put it into a single Google spreadsheet. Obviously there's more sophisticated ways to do this, like internal dashboards and stuff like that, but for me a Google spreadsheet worked really well. And down beneath here, which you can't really see, there's different tabs. So each of those tabs are each channel of our marketing funnel, basically, right? So we have one for email marketing, paid acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is kind of our overview slide that kind of looks at all of our KPIs, right? And this is basically what our inbound funnel looks like on a month-by-month basis. So really interesting, right? And the takeaway from that was you have to get data transparency, right? For internal buy-in, especially as somebody coming in new to the business, it was very important for me to like step back and take a look at where we were at and allow people actually to go in, everyone in the company to go in and view this document. So that's why I really like Google Spreadsheets actually is as soon as we created this document, I sent it around to the entire org and I said, hey, here's what our inbound funnel looks like. Poke around, play around. You do not have editing rights. But you have commenting rights. So I thought that was a good place to start. So when we did kind of create that funnel, what we did is we looked at, okay, like how can we be predictable with our funnel, right? So how do we take all that data that we have and how do we make some assumptions? So through that process, what we found is that this is kind of what our lead funnel looked like in terms of driving a business, right? So for every 300 leads that we capture through the Bitly property, we convert one new customer, right? So these are all assumptions based on that historical baseline that we created by pulling all that data. We found that we have about a 100-day sales cycle. And what we also found from looking at that funnel was that we actually had a pretty terrible MQL to SAL conversion rate, right? So when I looked at our funnel, like I circled that area and I was like, holy shit, we really suck here. So that was a part where we needed to really improve. The second finding was that with the goals that we had for our business at the end of the year, and these assumptions remaining true, we needed to build the top of the funnel, build the lead pie a little bit more so we could hit our goals. Because when I entered, we really weren't pacing at the right lead volume to get to the close one volume, the new account created, new customers that we had forecasted for the year. And then finding number 3 was that we actually weren't spending very much money to acquire a customer. So our lifetime value of our customers was actually way higher than what we were spending to acquire a customer. So what that means is that we actually have a pretty nice, healthy margin to start spending some more money to acquire customers. And as a VP of marketing or somebody coming in that does marketing, you're pretty stoked when you see that because you're like, wow, this is all upside. So, so that was pretty exciting. The takeaway from all this is that a defined funnel is a repeatable and improvable funnel, right? So just like that simple process of taking all the data that you have and start building some repeatability into it and understanding what patterns, what things exist in my funnel, that's what makes it so you can improve it. Okay, step 1A, tackle top of funnel low-hanging fruit. So this is the stuff that like when you enter in a new company, a new business where you kind of look at everything and you're like, why aren't we doing this, right? I'm sure a lot of people, you've all had that when you've entered a new business, new company, where you kind of look at things with fresh eyes and you say, man, like what are they doing? And this is kind of like the low-hanging fruit portion of my time at Bitly. So oddly enough, we actually didn't even have a call to action in our free product to our paid product, which is crazy. So just simple stuff like that. Let's put in a button that clicks to our paid product. Awesome. let's improve our landing pages, right? So when I looked at all their landing pages, you could click off, so you could exit the page very easily. There was no brands, no trust signals on the page. A lot of form fields that just like weren't necessary and causing a lot of people to abandon. So just stuff like that, right? We also looked at all the historical stuff that we've done from a content marketing standpoint. And we basically put some baselines. So we could say for every webinar that we created, we know that we generate about 1,000 new leads. For every ebook, we generate about 500 new leads, right? So we kind of started getting this understanding of this is how we start driving our funnel. And what this resulted in was a pretty nice ramp. And it wasn't super sophisticated, it wasn't very impressive, but it was one of those things where you could focus externally and you could focus on spending money and doing paid acquisition and all that stuff, but when you enter in a new business, you kind of realize there's a lot of stuff broken and there's a lot of opportunity in what you have already. So that was kind of where the first focus was for me and the team. And the takeaway there was that the winning formula is often quick wins, right? So I think it's very important when you enter a new business that you show movement, right? You start driving key metrics, but you also have the longer term vision. So what we did is we kind of mixed this quick wins and started getting the ramp going, as well as kind of developed a plan in terms of what is the long-term vision of what we want to create. So that's that. And by the way, feel free to stop me if you have any questions about this stuff, or we'll kind of catch this up at the end. So the other interesting thing was the team. So when I joined, we were not a big marketing team. We were only 3 people, so pretty small. We had a product marketing lead, we had a marketing designer, and we had a marketing ops person. So in terms of, this is actually a really challenging, interesting thing, was kind of planning out what an org looks like. It was my first time doing it, and the way that I did this is I thought about what are the things that are important to the marketing org that I want to create. And for me, in my time at Moz, I saw how powerful content marketing was, right? So I knew that had to be a focus of our marketing team. From my time at Moz, also I found how important community is, right? And building a community for people to learn, educate themselves. And then demand gen is obviously what we're here for, I guess, right? Or at least how you're measured as somebody running the marketing org. And then finally, product marketing, which I knew Bitly we needed to do a better job at. So this is kind of how I organized the team. And by the way, the colors. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So colors is what I entered with. Yellow colors. Green is what I entered with. Yellow is the hires that I've made so far. And then the gray is the ones that I'm still looking to fill, basically. So this is how the org kind of came together. Hiring really sucks. People that do it a lot. We obviously have a lot of people coming to bitly.com and putting in applications, but 99.9% of them are not very good. So I actually had to do all recruiting for almost every single role here was recruiting, I think, except for one. So I could talk about that for a really long time, but that's a whole other discussion. But I actually leaned really heavily on LinkedIn Recruiter. Spent a lot of time there. It was actually a really good product and did exactly what I needed. So yeah, that's a whole other thing. Feel free to grab me after if you want to talk about that. So this is what the team came together like, and one of the things that I think is becoming more and more accepted in our world is that you need a dedicated designer and a dedicated developer to really build a well-functioning marketing org, at least today. I mean, everything that you do has a design or development component to it, and you move really slowly if you don't. So that, I think, have been the 2 best hires that we made, or actually one of them was there before I got there. So yeah, so that's that. Step 3, improve the middle and the bottom of the funnel, right? So we started building this top of funnel, getting the pie bigger, and then we needed to figure out, okay, how do we improve that 300 to 1 lead to close 1 conversion rate that we've figured out that we have from pulling all that data? And the first thing that we looked at is how do we define who our who our ideal customer is, right? How do we define who our ideal buyer is? So what we did is we created buyer personas. So I actually, I'm not a huge fan of personas, to be honest with you, at least historically. But I was kind of thinking about them the wrong way. I was thinking about them purely from a, how do we target our ideal customer, right? But actually, the way that we thought about personas here was, how do we get the right people in the door, and then how do we use these personas to educate our our sales org to speak to these customers correctly, right? And convert them at a greater rate because they only care about certain features. And this is the kind of person that they are, and here's what they care about. And that's why buyer personas were actually really valuable to us. So what we did is we defined these four, and we didn't just like shoot from the hip here. We looked through all of our historical customer data that we had, and we started pulling out, hey, this is the title of person that converts really well for us. Here's what they do, right? Here's what their day-to-day function is. And then here's what they care about, right? Like here's the features that they care about. And for us, and I think a lot of you, if you have a sales development org or a business development org, that's the first part of your funnel. Those people are typically the most junior people within your org. So you need to make it as simple as possible for them to speak to your customer effectively and efficiently. So that's what this kind of helped us do. Yeah, I said that, I guess, already. Yeah. Okay, so that was that. The other thing that we looked at once we started building this top of funnel is the vast majority of the leads that you bring in the door are not going to convert, right? We know this is true. And once you start building, I think an average month for us is about 10,000 leads, right? So you have to assume a very small number of those are going to convert. And then what happens with the rest of them, right? Like once people don't convert, but they're now a lead in your database, what do you do with them? And for Bitly, we weren't doing anything with them. So we had actually, when I got to Bitly, we had a lead database of 200 and some thousand people, email addresses that we have not contacted at all. So this is like this stuff that you're like, oh my gosh, as a marketer. So what we did is we created lead nurturing stuff. So this is like table stakes, right? So everybody knows lead nurturing stuff. But surprisingly, a lot of people don't do it, or they don't do it with the sophistication or the effort that they really should. So what we did is we used those same buyer personas that we created on the last slide, and we created different lead nurture tracks based on the different persona types. So these were the four, and then they have cool acronyms like tofu, mofu, and bofu, which is awesome. This is top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and CW is close one. And the way that we arrange the content there is like this is awareness, right? Like high level, like understanding education. This is more tactical in terms of like implementation, that kind of stuff. And then bottom of funnel is like how can Bitly help you do those things, right? So that's kind of how we aligned our drip. And one of the things that we haven't done yet is we haven't created a funnel for our lead nurturing, just like we did for our new leads, right? So I think the ideal SaaS marketing org should have a new lead inbound funnel, and then it should actually have a existing lead funnel, right? So how many of the people that you acquired before are re-engaging? How many of them are becoming MQLs, SALs, SQOs, right? And how many of them are converting? So we're actually just in that process now of creating our lead nurturing funnel. Yes?
Sorry for asking the first question.
No, that's so start it up.
So regarding this slide, are you actually able to identify a persona at top of funnel, or is that persona really being fleshed out as you start approaching more engagement in bottom of funnel?
Yeah, so I think that's the challenging part. There's a lot of signals, right? So we can tie certain content pieces or product interactions to different persona types. But no, we're not that sophisticated yet. So really what's happening is we're doing a lot of manual tagging from our SDR team, and we're doing some data analysis to look at patterns and basically putting them into these different buckets based on that. And then we actually have a general bucket too that fits for people that we can't define as a persona type. Yeah. Any other questions about this? Anyways, it's really interesting because, like, as a marketer, you don't think much about like what you've already captured, right? You think about how do I get more people, but then that's kind of dumb, right? Because you spend a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort acquiring all these new people, new leads, and you kind of forget about them in most cases. So you don't give them the effort and the love that you do for new customers or new leads. So anyways, that was a big finding for me. The takeaway is just invest heavily in lead nurturing and building the re-engagement funnel. And I think a lot of people are in the SaaS world, but it was a finding for us. So this is all around the idea of how do we take that 300-run conversion rate, how do we improve it, right? So this is middle, bottom of funnel stuff. And one of the few of the things that we did, here's the persona stuff. The other thing that we invested heavily in was lead scoring. So how many people do lead scoring stuff? Am I talking like, is this our world? Are we all, yeah? Okay, we're all in this world? Okay, good. That's awesome. At least it's a little relevant then. So as you start building a bigger top of funnel, getting more leads in, you start having to become more sophisticated in terms of how do you score those people, right? How do you rank them in terms of, this is my priority based on all these attributes. So we started using a third-party tool called FlipTop, which actually got acquired by LinkedIn, which was painful for me, because now we probably have to rethink our software product that we implemented. So is the world. So we implemented a third-party system called FlipTop, and basically what that product did, and there's a ton of products out there that do this, but it looked at our entire database of close won or customers, and it basically said, based on all of this data that you have, here is what your ideal customer looks like in terms of title, size of company, type of company, et cetera, et cetera. And then it basically puts a spend grade on each lead that comes in the door. So this helps us for our SDR team. So when they have new leads come in, they filter by spend grade, and they can basically prioritize their day based on the quality, the theoretical quality of the leads that are coming in the door. The other thing that we did was a hot lead elevation email. So when certain leads came in the door and they hit a spend grade of A and an interaction score, so we had a manual scoring system of 50 or whatever it is, we would send an email to our SDRs prompting them to reach out immediately. I guess, well, the thing that I'm learning for enterprise SaaS is that the responsiveness actually determines a lot on whether like a contact engages with you, right? So having the speed and the timeliness around outreach and communication was actually really important. And then some SDR process stuff. Yeah. So when inbound lead volume grows, lead sophistication must grow with it. I think it was my takeaway there. And this is like such a complicated thing that it's never really done. But it's one of those things that you kind of have to spend some time towards it. And it's not super fun, but it needs to happen. So that was like my first 7 months. Any questions about any of that stuff? Yes?
When putting together landing pages, you want to short lead slots to avoid as much friction as possible. Do you guys do any contact augmentation to your leads to capture some of that other info?
We haven't yet. But I was actually playing around with slide shares. Do people use SlideShare for lead capturing? Yeah? They have this thing where you kind of click through different slides and it pops up the lead form. And they actually have a LinkedIn like autofill button. That's actually, it was really slick, like as a user. Like I didn't have to OAuth into my account, I was already logged in. And it just pre-populated everything. So we're actually we have that launching like next week on our lead forms. It's an open source plugin, or it's from LinkedIn. But we're going to start using that. So the answer is no, we haven't done that, but that's definitely one of the things that like we need to test on all of our landing pages. Because yeah, the abandonment rate based on the number of form entries is obviously very important. So yeah.
Is there a number of form fields that you try to keep to?
No. I could give you an answer, but I'd be lying. So no, I don't know. No. Yeah.
So, can you take us through the whole process in terms of in the company when leads come in, then because
Yeah.
you're talking, get it, but I want to hear some real life situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So our process.
10,000 leads a month is a lot.
It's crazy, right?
It's a small group. 10,000 leads.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So the way that it works is they come in, leads come in, they get scored automatically, right? So within the first 5 minutes, every lead gets scored. At that point, then it goes into an SDR lead queue, so sales development reps, and they basically work through their inbound lead queue. Some calls, mix of calls, calls, email. That's a process that we still need to figure out. But it goes through that process, and then basically they try to set a meeting, and then a sales rep comes in, and then it becomes part of the sales process. And it either converts or not, or does not convert. And then if it doesn't convert, then it goes into our remarketing queue, which is that secondary funnel that I mentioned.
The salespeople do a presentation.
Yeah, they have a deck that they go through. Yeah.
Again, 10,000 leads is a lot. So I'm just wondering where are those from? Just
all sorts of places. I mean, so Bitly is unique because we have 1 million or over 1 million monthly users on our free product. Okay, so we have obviously that huge usage funnel on our free product that helps a lot. So we're a freemium business essentially. Bitly gets 10 million uniques a month to the homepage, right? So makes my job pretty easy, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where the funnel comes from. Yeah. Any other questions yet?
Did you talk about how deliberate the sales process is in filtering customer feedback back to products?
No, I didn't talk about that, but we definitely do have a process for that. So every time a deal is won or lost, there's basically a survey that this salesperson fills out, basically talking about things like, was the price too high, was the functionality not correct, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we do have that process and that feedback loop.
When you guys are doing the scoring at the beginning, do you do weekly, monthly audits? Like, okay, our scores were really bad. We didn't have as many good ones. We need to change something. How often do you guys do that?
It's not a set process, but we have a weekly standing meeting with the SDR manager where we're going through basically the leads from the past week, and we're doing that. So we kind of have that process, but it's not really a formal thing. Kind of one of those things where it's like I said, it's never done, right? And it's impossible to be 100% accurate. So yeah, we kind of just have a standing meeting where we discuss and go through good stuff, bad stuff. Yeah.
I think a follow-on to that question, do you ever, part of the problem is you can look at history and focus, score based on history. Do you ever kind of step outside that and say, I wonder if we're just missing a huge opportunity because it hasn't happened in the past? Do you ever kind of just go and look at a completely different lead scored set of prospects and try something different with them?
Not yet, but we need to.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. You want to take it? Target segment for us, right? So that's one of those things where all the lead scoring and all that stuff doesn't really exist for it. So you kind of have to develop that, right? So yeah, we're just kind of getting there, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Just Andrew, about churn. Any findings you have, from customers that churn, how you speak to those customers differently? Any you can provide there?
Yeah. So one of the things, actually, this is a whole other topic that is a fantastic topic. So when I was at Moz, we had a 9% churn rate, and I thought that was decent. But when I came to Bitly, we actually have net negative churn of 20%, which is absurd. So we've invested very heavily in our customer success team. So we have a 15-person customer success team, and their entire focus is, one, reducing churn, but also expanding accounts, right? So when we have a new customer at Coca-Cola, right, and they're spending $500 a month with us, customer success's job is to basically build that relationship and expand that business. So for us, churn has actually been not a problem, and actually probably our biggest asset that we have in terms of growing revenue is our customer success team. So it's stark difference from Moz, where churn is a problem. And I think the biggest takeaway there is, like, if you're not investing heavily in customer success, you need to be. And I think the focus of customer success needs to not just be churn mitigation, but also how do we grow business in the account within our current customers, right? I think current customers are probably the best candidates for spending more money with you. And you need that first touch, that personal relation to expand the business. And before my time, that's like one of the things that has worked the best for Bitly. Did I answer the question?
Yeah,
Bill?
that's good.
Yeah?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
How do you talk to the tofu the top of the funnel?
I don't like tofu, actually.
Wow, how do you like Bitly in most people's minds is a very simple idea. And now, and it's clear that you have a premium offering that has an enormous breadth of functionality.
Yeah.
How do you educate that tofu?
I don't know, that's a tough one. That's why I think the buyer personas are really helpful, because without doing that, you kind of get lost in features, functionality, and all the different things you could talk about. But if you limit it down to, these are the people that we're speaking to, and we kind of work backwards and create content for them, and that kind of thing, it helps define and refine the way that we market to them through the remarketing program. So I think that has helped a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you end up, you may have answered this, but you had talked about you guys were underspending based on your marketing, based on what you were driving per lead. What did you end up falling on how much you wanted to spend, and does the negative churn also impact that?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Yeah, so our LTV that I'm going off of is actually our LTV non-including upsells. So we actually have even more. So I think our customer acquisition cost today is like $3,300, and then our LTV without upsells is like 18. So we have a pretty decent bulk of room there. But so this is actually one of the things that like I need your guys' advice on is like I'm not used to big budgets. So like when people are like, oh, now we have what, $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 to spend, like I don't know.
I was asking that question so you would answer that.
Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone know? No? What's that?
More money, the better.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you need to hire a few more people.
I think so too. Yeah. Yeah.
More
Yes.
traditional.
I noticed that the content marketing was in a different bucket than lead gen.
The what marketing?
Content marketing was in a different
Oh, yeah.
team part in your team. Why is that, and how do you measure content marketing?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think content marketing sucks when it's focused on driving leads, right? So I wanted to make a clear distinction that content marketing is education and building our community, and not driving leads, right? Content marketing, obviously, if you do content marketing very well, you will drive leads and drive business, but I didn't want it as the same org as our demand gen. And also, those are probably going to be the two biggest orgs within the marketing team. So I wanted to keep those separate from a pure headcount standpoint as well. So that's why I kind of separated those two things.
What did the sales org look like when you joined the Knowledge Exchange?
Yeah, sales org is 25 people mixed across enterprise sales and corporate sales. So enterprise sales is above a certain dollar value, corporate is below that dollar value. And then we have an SDR team of 5 people, split actually between inbound and outbound.
And then is there a VP of sales, sort of your peer there with your?
You know, we actually lost our VP of sales, and we have a director of customer success and a director of sales. And we've actually kind of allowed those two gals to basically kind of elevate within the org. So the hope is that we will actually have a VP of customer success and a VP of sales, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
On the customer engagement and upgrading side, do you have any sort of formula or metrics in there of what you're doing to engage them without over-engaging? Are there, certain touch points that are phone call versus email versus, have you automated any of that?
You know, I don't, but our customer success lead does. I know that they're pretty sophisticated with that. We actually just started using Intercom as well for more programmatic sort of interactions like that. And I've used Intercom in past lives, and it's awesome. Is somebody from Intercom here? I'm gonna like fanboy out. No? Oh, okay. No, Intercom's awesome. Have people heard of Intercom? Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay, so quick pitch. They don't work at Intercom, but it's awesome. No, so they look at your entire database and basically give you programmatic ways to interact with people that are using your product. So Intercom's awesome because I can say, give me all people that haven't logged in 30 days, that are a free user, that have these other attributes in this location doing whatever. And I can communicate with them directly either within the app or via email. So for like a customer success org, that's awesome, right? Because what you'll find is there's different cohorts of people that are likely to churn or likely to upgrade, etc. And you can basically build that into Intercom so you are communicating with those people at the right time with the right message. So yes, there's sophistication there, but I don't know it. Any other questions? That was awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
So I love sort of the inside-out view of you entering in from a marketing leader and sort of coming up with this process. What about the external view? How do you view the competition? How do you as a leader think about marketing? How you're going to differentiate the competition?
Yeah, I'm gonna get into that a little bit, but if I don't cover everything, let's come back to that because I think that's like the really hard part I think now. Okay, I'll keep rolling and then stop me. So, funny you asked that. So, probably a lot of people, a lot of you, and keep in mind, like you're all in the space, right? So you're in this world. And when I say Bitly's at $1 million in monthly recurring revenue, how many people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Yes? Okay. Yeah, so that's what I was like too, actually. Like 7 months ago. Yeah, so I think Bitly's opportunity but challenge is that we have awareness, right? People know Bitly, but like people aren't clear on what the hell we do or how we make money. I can't tell you how many times that I talked to people and I said I'm working at Bitly now. They're like, aren't you guys like 4 people in a garage somewhere? Like, how do you make money? So that's been an interesting one. And the way that I'm thinking about that is there's like a short-term view and then there's a longer-term view. But for me, like the 3 things that we have in process right now is a clear website. Like 101 stuff, right? So if you go to bitly.com, it's extremely confusing. Not clear what you're getting into, what the product is, that there's even a paid product, or what the difference is between the free product and the paid product. So the first thing is like block and tackling. Let's have a new website that has our free product and our paid product clearly separated, and key features, key functionality for each of those things clearly separated. So that's something that's launching at the end of November, actually. So if I did a shitty job with it, like tell me. And then we'll make it better. But that's the first thing that we're doing. And, for us, that's actually pretty impactful because, like I said, we have, 10 million plus uniques every month at bitly.com. So we have this like huge number of people that a website actually goes a long way for us. The other thing is education. So we need to start building a community of marketers, start building a place where we are a source of education. I know it's a more crowded, competitive space than it used to be, but I think that's really important. And then playing around with industry stuff, right? So how do we align ourselves, our brand, with the right topics in our industry that kind of help move along this clarity problem that we have. The other thing that we're focusing pretty heavily on over the next couple months is building the bridge between our free product and our paid product. So we actually, Bitly's story is like really interesting, right? Because it's a story I think that happens a lot, where a product launches in market, it's a free product, doesn't make any money, raises a ton of cash, and then they get a couple years in and they're like, holy shit, we have to make money now. And that's like exactly what happened with Bitly. So we had this free product, and then we actually built a paid product as like a completely separate platform. So now we have 2 products, our free product and our paid product, and they're not connected at all. So what we're doing is we're completely redoing our free product, and by doing that, we're also completely rebuilding our paid product. So this is like a little tease at the new product, and this is the old product. So these 2 things will be connected, which allows us to do things like in-product CTAs in different spots and all that stuff that make the interaction between the 2 products very natural. So that process is in the works as well. And then some other things that we have on our side is we have, like I said, this really awesome data asset. And as a marketer, you can't access that data except through an API. So what we're doing is we're actually building like a really cool interface on our data. So you as a marketer could put in a URL, and you can look at trends over time of that specific URL in terms of how many clicks, how many shares, etc. on that. Do people remember Topsy? Anybody remember Topsy? Yeah? Yeah, man. So I used to use Topsy all the time, and it was really cool because you could put in a name or a link, and it would show you the life cycle of that link. So we have that same data asset, and we aren't using it. So want to make our data more public. The other thing that I've seen, obviously, with Buffer and with Moz is the power of transparency. Just talking about things like revenue and growth and all that stuff helps change the perception that we all have, and I had, that like Bitly's 4 people in a garage. So that's something that we're going to be doing as well. And then as of last week, I actually took over our SDR team, which is, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but it'll be interesting. And I think the whole goal there is how do we connect the top of the funnel work that we're doing to our sales org. And SDRs are really interesting because they kind of sit in the middle. So how do we connect those two things and make us more efficient? So that's kind of what we're doing, and I have a Trump gift here as well. Which I can leave. Do you want me to leave this, or you want me to go to this? I'll leave this here for a second. Yeah.
It's an interesting comment about the SDR team moving in underneath you, and for various reasons, but do you think that's going to happen more often in modern marketing world?
You know, I don't know. Like, give me 2 months, and I'll be able to answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a good idea, but you know, I don't know. Like, it's just such a new world for me. Like, you know, my whole world actually before this was self-service SaaS, right? So people go in, swipe a credit card, and convert or not convert. So this whole world for me is new. So am I the best person to run our SDR team? Probably not. But you know, I guess it makes sense, and I think it's important from a marketing side to like know what's happening to the leads that you bring in. So I think it makes sense from a high level, but I'm not sure.
Was that decided because the folks running sales were more focused on the account reps?
Yeah, and our conversion rate was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can do a better job. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah. More questions? Are we done? Am I good on time?
Time for questions, for sure.
Do you have any main action items that you're going to try and implement from the get-go with your SDR team?
So it's like the same process actually. So this was like as of Monday of last week. So first thing I had us do is build the same like database of data because we didn't have that either on the SDR side. Basically taking all that baseline data and figuring out how do we make it repeatable, more efficient, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think whenever you come into like a new org, the first thing is like, let me gather all the data that exists that's possible, and then make intelligent decisions based on what the data is telling me. So that's what I plan on doing with the SDR team.
Another question. So you have an engineer and designer on your team. Do they sit completely within marketing, or are they allocated as FTEs?
So they're full-time employees, but they actually don't report to me. So our designer reports to our head of UX, and then our developer reports to our head of front end. So I think it's important actually that they sit with their respective orgs, but they are involved in every marketing meeting and all that stuff. So it's worked out pretty well for us. And we use Trello and Jira respectively for the 2 PM processes there. Yeah.
So with 10 million uniques, it's pretty valuable.
Yeah.
In the free world. Does Bitly look at strategic alliances with complementary type companies, or do you kind of silo yourselves?
No, we definitely want to. Like, I mean, one of our key strategies is like the link exists everywhere, and we need to plug into all the different products that use links, right? So we should be plugged into an email platform, you know, a Twilio, a CRM, etc., right? So we're in the process of doing that, but I think it's not been an intentional thing, but like a result of other focuses that we haven't done as much as we should have done there. So more so, we're starting to look that way. Yeah. Cool. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you all. I appreciate it.